Well, I'm looking forward to catching up with you. The last time we spoke was in March at Mobile World Congress, and your intelligent network modernization story was all about engineering and operations, plan, build, run. But here we are in June at DTW Ignite Copenhagen, and a lot's changed. Maybe you can catch me up.
So look, Sean, for the industry itself, a lot has changed in the last 5 to 6 months. We are no different. The pace of change is much more significant than ever before. Today we are talking about changes in weeks. So where we have evolved ourselves from the time we last spoke, our intelligent network modernization continues to be the go-to market positioning for us on the network side. However, after having spoken to multiple customers across the last 3 to 4 months, one problem remains clearly an area which everybody is trying to over-index and try to solve for is the data foundation layer, especially with a lot of agentic models running, AI models running across the board. We, in a sense, are also trying to over-index our efforts around that. So hence our intelligent network modernization stack really cuts across 3 layers, starting with network engineering, which we talked about. And we have evolved that into a few other dimensions as we need to tailor it to the more futuristic next 2 to 3 years view. We have also built a very strong layer around data foundation of 2 things. One is how does AI help and data come together to help us engineer the network more effectively. And second, while the network is in operation, the amount of data that gets churned out, how do we correlate all of that data for meaningful AI models which come out of that is something that we are trying to work on as well. And that feeds into our cognitive operations layer, which we are really trying to bring the best of the autonomous network stack together.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about data foundation. For the past decade at least, the telecoms industry's talked about data quality, data readiness, and the need for OSS modernization. But the reality is not a lot has actually changed. So why is this the moment, and how are you approaching it differently?
See, look, I think you're right, Sean. The industry overall has always talked about data in a meaningful way. But if you look at the amount of data now that we have to deal with and the instances of the data that we have to deal with is something which is creating the additional level of complexity. Even for AI models to be more effective, it needs a clean data. And if you look at the agents which are running on the network or on an IT system, the amount of data and at the speed at which it is getting generated, and there are multiple threads of data which get generated. How do you keep that clean? And second most important thing that we are seeing is how do you create a context around what the AI models are generating on the data? And be it on the network KPIs which get generated real time or even the OSS data that you're talking about, it requires a clear foundation, a structure, a governance, which we are trying to also solve for as part of our approach.
Okay, so you laid out the 3-layer structure of intelligent network modernization. That was network engineering, data foundation, then cognitive operations. From the operator perspective, is this a all or none, all at once, or is there a sort of phased modular approach they can take?
So what we have done is it's a multivariant. The intelligent network modernization stack is powered by our Vismon AI. It is a IP-based platform approach that we are taking, but it is modular in nature. We also don't position it as a product or a standalone IP. It is mostly bundled as part of our service offerings as an enabler layer, and it is modular by itself. So network engineering modules are independent of data foundation models and your cognitive NOC models. But if there is a need for us to bring the full stack end to end, we definitely are able to do that. Our difference really comes into our ability to do multi-domain, multi-vendor, bring in our 30 years plus knowledge of having solved meaningful problems for the telcos, being able to work deeply with some of the top CNOs and CTOs of tier 1, tier 2 telcos across the globe. And how do we differentiate in, with some of these, IPs coming together with our knowledge in the services context is something which we are trying to bring to the forefront. But yes, it is modular. Yes, it can be end-to-end if there is a need for somebody to solve. We also work seamlessly across multi-OEM ecosystem or a single OEM ecosystem as an enablement layer on top. So,
I want to talk now a little bit about RAP Factory. This is a really interesting space, but if you kind of scan the commercial reality, deployments are relatively limited. I think you could fairly say it's somewhat immature. I'm curious how you're thinking about really disrupting this and driving some change here.
yeah, look, see, RAP now has been into the mix for the last good 7 to 8 months or a little more. We definitely now, after having crossed the initial phase where various OEMs were trying to, for example, Ericsson with their EIAP platform, they're trying to do their pilots and standardize their stack into a telco network. What we have started doing is the knowledge that we have on the network domain, we have been able to bring that together, package it in the form of our apps. Now we are also certified on EIAP. We are talking to some of the other OEMs to, and look, the experiences of solving meaningful problems, the rendering of that is our apps. So the problem statements have not gone away or are any different. It's just the way it is now being rendered to the market. Think about dynamic configuration management or conflict management real time on a network environment, or even things like energy efficiency, the way it is managed, how it needs to, how cells need to be dynamically managed or powers or dynamically shut off. I think some of those things do get rendered. The use cases were always there. The rendering is now in the form of R apps. Some of the reports say that the market for R apps in the next 12 to 18 months is anywhere between $700 million to $1 billion. The rendering of that will happen through the SMOs which are getting established. We have a catalog of about 40 odd R apps which we are working on. Some of them are already in the EIAP network, and we are also talking to some of the other SMOs to get them listed. But yes, I think that clearly unlocks a greater value for solving the problem statement which the telcos have always had, but now in a more meaningful way, in a more structured way. And we are definitely putting our bets on that as well.
I want to look at the big theme here at DTW, which is network automation, particularly level 3 to level 4 type automation. But the reality is most operators self-report at level 1 or level 2. I think it's 79%. So I'm kind of curious how you're thinking about how realistic it is in the near term to have level 4 at any kind of scale. And then more generally, how do we get from what is a relatively manual process to something that we could clear-eyed say is highly autonomous?
Again, a problem statement which the telcos are trying to solve at different levels across different tiers and different regions. Some of the telcos do have a head start in that direction, where they have embraced the open architecture. They have a head start working with some of the OEMs in that direction. Clearly, they are aligned closer to a 3.5 kind of a level of autonomy. But broadly, you're right, it's about 75 to 80% of the telcos across the globe still are at about L1, L2. They are refining their playbook. That is where having a very strong data foundation is important. Having a very clean roadmap on how they want to take their SMO interfaces ahead and what kind of use cases they are trying to go after is going to be meaningful. See, the industry still is trying to solve three broad problems. One is how do they get to greater capex efficiency. The cost pressures are only increasing for the telcos because monetization angle is also limited, right? Also, if you look at 5G standalone, which is limited to about 20 to 25% global penetration, that obviously limits the telcos to unlock greater value around network slicing or open architectures, network as a product. How do they create greater reliability on certain network slices on the enterprise side? So I think those problems still remain. And then, of course, third one is then we get to the higher level of autonomy across the board. So data foundation will still continue to be a problem which most of the telcos have to solve for before they even get to a platform play which allows them to get to that level of autonomy.
So those are the big problems. We've talked about what Cyient is doing to help operators solve those problems and move forward. I want to talk a little bit just about how you approach this from a commercial contractual reality. I know you're always focused on delivering long-term outcomes. Most system integrators you talk to would say the same thing. So help me understand, what skin do you have in the game?
See, look, we are one of those very few engineering and technology services firm which lead with a outcome-based commercial model which lead with a greater skin in the game, even in a managed services contract. So definitely, hence the nature of our investments over the years. So we have always taken a pole position in what we are investing in, how we are building the platforms and capabilities and IPs which are more long-term in nature, more outcome-driven. Hence, the catalog of RRs that we are investing on now, which is once we have that base frame, we can go and address multiple customer problems. And yes, we do put our skin in the game as a result of that. One other thing which I would like to add is even the over-encompassing platform, the Vismon AI that we are positioning in the market, comes with its own layer, which is a very thin veneer which can sit on any of the SMOs, work closely with them, take the API exposure in a standardized way, and then open up the ecosystem for us to deploy our apps in a more effective or fast-track manner for the telcos. So it need not be a monolithic R app also in it. Our approach is more of a lightweight R app with a standardized interface layer getting covered through Vismon, so that then the R apps are in a sense consuming whatever the SMO is able to offer them, but a standardized integration layer is created through a Vismon platform. So I think we are approaching this in a few ways. Some of these go as part of our investment. We are taking a bold position in committing to some of the saving outcomes that the customers are looking at, or even some of the energy efficiency outcomes that they want to target. So yes, all in, but it does make us do a little more thinking around what are the most important problem statements that the telcos want to solve, and that's where our prioritization is.
Excellent. Well, I always enjoy catching up with you, and I appreciate you taking the time to share with me and our audience how Cyient's supporting its operator customers.
Thank you so much, Sean. Pleasure talking to you again. Have a good day.